The following is a local resident producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of Oshkosh Media, the City of Oshkosh, or your video service provider.
And welcome to another edition of On Oshkosh. I'm your host, Cheryl Hentz. Very happy tonight to be welcoming to the show for the very first time Carmen Scott. Carmen is the Communications and Marketing Manager for New PAWSibilities Rescue, which is a rescue here in Oshkosh that gosh, I don't know how many years they've been around, but she's going to tell us.
I will tell you, yes.
So anyway, and we've had Jim, the founder, and I guess the general manager from New Paws, on in the past, probably a few years after they began as a rescue. But we've never had you on. In fact, you're not even from Oshkosh.
I am not. And first of all, thank you so much for having me. I have been looking forward to this, and you're kind of like my debut. I've lived in Oshkosh for 2.5 years and kind of getting back into life. So,
yep,
you're my first.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But anyone who watches this show, and we started On Oshkosh back in 2002. So it's been on the air a long time, with the exception of 1 year when I thought I was going to quit. I had done it a number of years. I thought I was going to quit. And
they wouldn't let you.
And I gave my sayonara speech and all that, and shed my tears at the time that I did that. And then people kept saying, "Where's your show? Where's your show? Where's your show?" And so I thought, okay, clearly there's still a need for it, and people still want it, and they miss it. So I started it up again.
Well,
so,
I'm glad. Thank
yes,
you.
And so, but anyone who watches this show or listens to this show on the radio knows that my greatest passion in life, besides my family, friends, and my pets, which include my family, saving dogs, doing animal rescue work, that's where my heart is. That is the biggest passion I have besides those other things. And I volunteer with the Humane Society of the U.S. I volunteer with a number of different dog rescues. And now I'm proud to say I'm volunteering with you guys.
And we love having you as a volunteer. And when you volunteer, you brought volunteers.
I did.
Yes, and that thrills me.
And I'm bringing more to the next event.
That's wonderful.
So anyway, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. And why you came to Oshkosh, I don't know, because Carmen lived in Hawaii. And she came here to Oshkosh, and you've been through the first winter or so already.
I have been through 2 winters,
so
and I've been through a whole season of weed pulling. I don't know which is worse, the winter or the weeds, but I survived.
I don't know why you left Hawaii, but I'm glad that you did, because you have done incredible things for New PAWSibilities since you've been here. And we're going to talk about some of those things. But first, why don't we just talk a little bit about the history of New PAWSibilities, kind of how it started before Carmen Scott
and it was a
came
long
into the
time. I've been here exactly 1 year. I started as a volunteer.
Here at New PAWSibilities.
Yes, and started as a volunteer, realized there was a greater need, and kept getting a few more things put on my plate until finally we put me as a part-time person. And we know in nonprofit part-time means like 80 hours, not 20, but it's fine.
And little money.
Yeah.
But that's what volunteers
That's what volunteers do, and
nonprofits are all
that's
about.
one of the benefits of moving, of getting older. of kind of having no kids and fewer responsibilities, you can do the things you've always wanted to do. Yeah. So for your young people out there listening and watching, take heart. Those gray hairs will get you places that you couldn't get before. New Possibilities opened about 7 years ago. Jim was a dairy farmer. Did you know that? He was a dairy farmer. He was working at a dairy farm in Kaukauna, and he fell. He had a horrible accident falling from a silo, if I'm not mistaken.
He probably told me that, but I don't remember that.
Yeah, he fell from a silo, and it
horrible.
was horrible, and he could not farm anymore. But while he was farming, he looked at a field, and his passion is dogs. And he said, this place would make a great rescue. Well, he ended up not making it there because he fell. He went through all these different challenges of really getting his health back. But he did eventually open New Possibilities, same location, Algoma Boulevard, right in Oshkosh. Not that far from Kaukauna. Honestly, I don't know where, if he was living there at the time, but, close enough. And we started kind of on a wing and a prayer, as nonprofits do, with a passion. And realizing once it started, he was really good at selecting people with dogs. And that's a real trick. Not everybody has that ability, as you know, to kind of do that matchmaking and making sure that the dog stays in the home. But what he realized is there wasn't this huge overabundance of stray dogs roaming around Oshkosh begging for homes. And it's a nonprofit business, but it is a business. Mm-hmm. And if you don't bring in and you don't pay your rent, and you know how that goes. Yep. So he talked with a friend and said, hey, I need dogs. And other rescues have done that. Mm-hmm. And if you ever have dogs you can't home, send them to me. And she said, well, I can do that. But do you know about the plight of the southern dog? No. Is there a plight? And she laid out this challenge. In the South, there's a different mindset. The spay or neuter rarely happens. Right. The microchipping, the tags, hunting dog, drop a litter, off it goes. And there was a Kentucky Regional Animal Center who we partner with. The first year they were open, it's in Appalachia in Kentucky. Okay. 3 counties, they had a huge problem. They banded together, and that first year they had 8,000 pets, primarily cats and dogs. These are pets that literally were on death row. Mm-hmm. And the rush was, how do we get them homes? But the poverty, this is the poorest county in Kentucky. So the poverty level was such that people don't understand. Dogs need vets. Dog needs nutritious food. And all the things that come with having a dog. And so they sadly, and I can't believe I'm saying these words, euthanized 98% that first year.
Not being
Kentucky.
Yes.
The Kentucky shelter.
Yeah.
And they said, we have to have a solution. And Jim thought about it a nanosecond, and he said, I will take a transport. There were 13 dogs that came. They called them the Lucky 13, and they flew out of New Possibilities, and several of them still come back for boarding and daycare.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really, really cool.
So you get to see them over a period of time.
You get to see them, and it kind of mushroomed. Sure. And he stumbled in to a market that desperately needed, and there are 7 shelters up north that bring these dogs in. We bring in dogs roughly twice a month, 30 to 40 dogs or more each transport. They all come in on one day. That was yesterday, 31 dogs. So that's how it started. It started strictly with volunteers. We have a lean, mean staff of 1 full-time shelter manager, 1 3/4 shelter assistant manager, and 1 part-time. That's it. That's it. So,
well, and as a nonprofit, it has to be lean and mean.
It has, and
although not so mean, but lean.
But they're very good at what they do because Jim has also the heart and the ability to find people who also need rescuing. And that's how he found me. Sure. He found me because I needed rescue. Anybody who rescues animals probably needed rescuing themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, And that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it is. And I don't know that I needed rescuing, but I just felt like, someone has to help these animals.
But in helping the animals help you.
Well, it gives me a wonderful feeling knowing that I'm helping to
and that's
save
what I
lives.
mean by rescuing.
Yeah.
Because it gives you another layer, another dimension.
Yep.
I think I was not a dog person. I was never getting a dog. In my whole life, I was never getting a dog. We'd done that, didn't work out well. Now I know why. I moved here because of a very bad car wreck with a traumatic brain injury. And I could not do my job. My son lives here. My doctor kept saying, get a dog, get a dog. For 2 years, I said, you're out of your mind. Finally, I jokingly said we should call my dog Xanax. Because I kind of thought of him as, well, I tried Xanax, it didn't work, I guess I'll try a dog. If that doesn't work, I give it to my husband. No, this is a true story. And we went there because New PAWSibilities has best hours. Jim said, we need a shelter that is open when people need them. We are open 7 days a week. We are open every holiday, every day except Christmas. We have short hours on a couple holidays. They were open. I didn't have any intention of getting a dog that day. I was simply going to go and look at the shelter. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that there was an adoption fee attached to a dog. I was as novice as you can believe. And I said, I want a dog that doesn't jump, doesn't bark, doesn't get on my bed, doesn't slobber. Jim says, you don't really want a dog, do you? I said, nope. He goes, I have the perfect dog for you. We had already looked at a couple different dogs, and they were like, went to my husband. But it was my dog. This little dog, little 10 pounds underweight, little shelter mix came, and he sat, and he just looked at me, and he looked at me with those eyes like, I dare you not to love me.
And he got you.
And he got me.
Yep.
And he changed my life. Mm-hmm. Because before that dog, I was highly suicidal. I used to take my medication, and I would Google, what pills do I need to take of these, in which combination, so I don't end up being a burden to my family.
Yeah.
That dog saved my life. Mm-hmm. A person who was never, ever going to have a dog, who would walk to the other side of the street so a dog didn't touch me, who had the attitude of, why are dogs allowed here?
Yeah.
Changed my life. How can I not do what I do when there are people like me?
And I would say, Carmen, that not only did that dog save and change your life, but that dog, in kind of a roundabout way, saved and changed the lives for countless dogs.
That's right.
Because look at the work that you have done over the course of the last year or so. So you covered a lot of stuff.
Well, thank you for indulging me and letting me tell my story, because I think it's important that people understand why we do what we do, why we're passionate about what we do, what you do, what all of us do in this field, because it don't pay.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, when Carmen talks about dogs in the South being euthanized in hundreds and thousands of numbers, that is very true. As a matter of fact, it's horrible just to think about all these wonderful animals being put down because there's no home for them. But there are so many, in some cases, that there are some, I don't even like using the word shelter because they're not sheltering these dogs and cats from anything. But there are some of these kill shelters in the South that still use gas chambers because they have so many that they need to put down. And that, I think, is probably the most horrible. You think about, when I think about gas chambers, I think about, Nazi Germany and the Jews being put to death, and here we are still doing things like that, not with people, but with dogs.
There were 21 animals a day on average that were in the gas chamber in Kentucky. Now, thanks to New Possibility and the other shelters that transport these dogs up north, their numbers are down below 2%. And those numbers who are, they're necessary. They have health issues they cannot overcome. They never kill a dog because they don't have space. Because when they have a crisis and they say, can we throw a few more on for you? And we always say yes.
Yeah.
We always say yes. Nor do we ever kill a dog because we don't have space. We're so excited. We had a dog named Rusty. And those people who follow us on Facebook knew Rusty's journey. 2 years with us, Rusty was. 2 years. Rusty went home last week.
That is fantastic.
We had another dog last week. 8 months. 8 months he'd been here. So those combined, that was 20 months.
Yeah.
20 months.
That's amazing.
And so we never kick a dog out.
Yep.
We never say they can't be fixed. We never say they can't find a home. And Rusty went home. How exciting is that?
That is wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the numbers of dogs that you have placed, because I think that's important. And I know when Jim was on the show, and this was about 3 years after he had started, so probably about 4 years ago Jim was on. And for those who aren't familiar, his name is Jim Deering, and he is the founder. And I mean, the idea, I don't know that it came from his brain, because everybody, who's in rescue work, they all think about things like this. But he's the founder, and he does have a very large heart.
He does.
And so at that point when he was on, he had placed in 3 years a little over 3,000 dogs. And so here we are 7 years later, and the numbers are even greater. You were telling me that you are about ready to close in on...
We're on track by the end of this year, probably about 1,200, which is exciting. What's, I think, even more exciting is we allowed ourselves to step back. We deliberately changed the way we do business in the South. So we started taking fewer dogs so we could invest in dogs in the South. The only way to end pet homelessness is spay and neuter.
Absolutely.
And if we're not finding people in the South willing to do it, there is a program that we took less dogs so we could invest in, because spay neuter is not free. There's only so many vets. They're not doing it for free. Normally they may do a reduced rate, but with those numbers, they have to stay in business, and they're not doing it for free.
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, I think you're probably going to talk about Spay It Forward.
Yes.
Okay. And I want to hear all about that. There, twice a year, I think people probably know that I facilitate an animal ministries program at my church. And that's where I corralled all the volunteers from to go help out at a recent event, which we're going to hear about pretty soon, I think, and then talk about some upcoming events. But I corralled my volunteers, and I said, we've got a wonderful opportunity to help here, and it's in our own backyard. Many times what we do it twice a year. We go to the Menominee Reservation in Kashina, and they have set up, strictly for people who live on the reservation, they have set up a low to no cost spay-neuter. They have vets there, some who are from Oshkosh, as a matter of fact, who volunteer their time, and their vet techs volunteer their time all day, starting super early in the morning, and we go until probably about 4:30 in the afternoon. And you can make a donation if you want, but I don't see a whole lot of people making donations. And it's set up like a big MASH unit. And these vets and vet techs are volunteering their time to help these people on the reservation. And, I wish that more vets would do things. I mean, certainly you're in the business of spaying and neutering and doing other things for vets. You can't give away your services, but, you can, in the spirit of humankind and compassion, maybe lower rates when you're working with an organization, such as New Possibilities.
And they do. We used to bring in, the majority of our dogs were not spayed or neutered. And what that meant was we have a dog that we really can't say is even available because he's not, because every dog goes out fixed. So we're bringing in all these dogs. We're giving them great levels of care, but we have to wait in line for the vet who is going to give us that reduced rate so that we can actually do the fundraising, get the money, get them up. So we said, let's step back and let's reevaluate. And there's a program called Spay It Forward. And the way that works is, you know, I'm in Kentucky and I got my dog. I love my dog so much. I always tell people, my dog's from Kentucky. He barks with a southern accent. And I have people who actually believe that. So I love that dog, but she done got pregnant. But I can't take no puppies.
Yeah.
And the agreement is, bring us your dog. We'll take those puppies. We will, for free, spay your dog and give your dog back to you. You don't have to be without the love of your life because you didn't have the money. That comes out of our pocket.
Yep.
Now, we do get a reduced rate, which is exciting, but it's still money. And then we don't take the mother away, but those puppies are able to be nurtured until such time as it's realistic for them to travel. And then we home them here, which is very exciting. So we pulled back on our numbers so we could do some exciting programs like that. But now that they're in place, when these dogs come, bam, we can get a dog out in a day because they're already ready, which is very exciting. So we're probably looking, right now we're looking at about 1,200 this year. I feel the numbers just will skyrocket because the market is there. You know, when I first got involved, I thought the market was Oshkosh.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
I'm sure.
But I
a lot of
also
people think
didn't
that,
know anything about Wisconsin. I didn't know even where we were practically. I mean, I had a son, so here I was. You know, I had grandsons. Turns out we get people coming in from Illinois, from Minnesota. We get them from Green Bay. We get them. It's amazing. It is amazing. The reach. When you've got petfinder.com and you've got the internet, you're at Facebook and the forwards that go back around. And so we are based in Oshkosh, but our market is far, far beyond, which is exciting.
You know, I think, Carmen, that some people have the idea that a dog that is in a pound or a shelter or a rescue, there's a myth or a stigma attached to those animals that they're somehow broken. And they're not. These dogs and cats, too, end up in shelters for a wide variety of reasons. Perhaps their owner was elderly and they passed away. And, you know, there's no one to take care of the dog. You know, it could be a stray. It could be an owner surrender. Dogs end up in shelters and rescues for a wide variety of reasons. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. That doesn't mean that they're broken in some way. But dogs are dogs, and they need to be taught how to behave, how we want them to behave. No dog comes fixed. And I don't mean fixed as in altered.
No dog comes perfect for your living condition. And if you go to our website, newpawsibilities.com, and if you go to our Facebook, just type in New Possibilities and it'll pop up. We do a lot of educating of people on training, on potty training, on crate training. We're pulling in experts to do guest panels. I always say, do as I say, not as I did. So every mistake I make with this dog, and I have made a lot, I write about it so that people can see that you're going to have situations, and it's usually not the dog's fault. And we get this a lot when we put up these dogs on Facebook, and I just put up a page answering all these questions, and hopefully people will read it. Will my dog be potty trained? Is my dog good with kids? Is my good dog with cats? Can he walk on a leash? All those questions, which are valid questions, and the answer is, I don't know. If we know, because the shelter, for example, the owner went to an assisted living, can't have a dog, for one owner, 7 years old, we know a lot about that dog. We'll pass it on. But if it's a stray, if it is a situation where somebody surrendered because they lost their housing, they couldn't find any place to rent with dogs, and we know about that here.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But the person doesn't say all the little nuances of what that dog is like. We don't make things up.
Yeah.
We're not going to, because then we're setting you up for disappointment.
Do you guys, when you get dogs in, do you test them with cats? Do you test them with other dogs? Do you test them with little children?
We do. Well,
so
we have a shelter cat that roams,
Okay.
so they definitely they get the cats. It's a very unique shelter, and I thought, because I knew nothing, that every shelter played Sarah McLachlan singing "Through the Eyes of," whatever that song is, and that you had all these dogs in cages with sad eyes. We don't do that. So the dogs roam free in the daytime. They are large dogs, small dog, puppy rooms, and they're grouped, and they play and they have fun. They socialize, which is really cool.
well, and really important.
And very important. A lot of shelters around the country don't do that. Whether it's they don't have the room, they don't have the staff. So we would rather have fewer dogs, but make that investment of getting them ready for their forever home.
Yeah.
And then we have daycare, we have boarding, so we integrate those dogs. At night they do sleep in a kennel. So they are used to being in a kennel, at least for that exposure. In terms of do we test them with kids, not really. What we do is we always encourage people, if you have children, bring your children. If you have another pet, bring your pet for a meet and greet. So we'll encourage that. But there really is no way in this environment that we can bring in kids. I have a grandson, and we go there all the time, and he plays with the dogs, and he'll just go, and because
Probably makes his day.
it makes his day. He really wants a dog, and as he says, my dad says no because I got a baby brother instead. So he gets his doggy fix by coming over to the shelter and playing with him.
Now, I have a question for
Yes.
you, because and we're going to talk about the boarding and the grooming and all that, because that is something also that's unique to you folks. That's where some of your operating expense comes from. But when you say that the dogs that you're boarding are being integrated with the other dogs, I think as a pet owner, if I was boarding my dogs, I don't know that I'd want them integrated with any other dogs.
So
again, not because there's something wrong with them, but just I don't know how.
So you get the choice.
So I can say
You
then,
get the choice.
I don't want them.
You get the
I want
choice.
them to play by themselves.
Exactly.
I don't want them to play
you
with
get
the other
choice,
dogs.
which I
Okay.
think is great. Coconut, and he has a funny name because my grandson said, "Grandma, you should get a dog," and I said, "There's not going to be a dog, and Grandma's not going to get a dog." "But you got a yard, it's fenced, Grandma." But he didn't want to jump the fence, so it didn't really matter. "Grandma, you're going to get a dog. You can name him Coconut." I go, "Why?" "Well, duh, you're from Hawaii. What are you going to name him? Pineapple?" So that's why he got his silly little name,
I love it.
Coconut, and
I
it
think
works.
it's a
And he
great
looks like
name.
a coconut, and it's great. So because he lived there for 3 weeks before we got him, for him to go back into daycare and knowing how social he is, for him was like going home. So I didn't want him going to daycare on the days when I, for whatever reason, weather or I have appointments or whatever, it's nice for him to go for a few hours. It made sense for me to have him in that environment. We have other people who say, we don't want that. We want our dog by himself. So it's really up to the owner. It's not our job to tell you how you should do your job. Yeah. So good
Very
point,
good.
though. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because, I've got one dog who sometimes is really great with other dogs, besides the two that she lives with. And then sometimes, if she feels threatened in some way, she maybe won't do so well, And if I'm gone out of town, that's not a chance I want to take. The last thing I want is a phone call
That's
saying,
right.
your dog's been in a dog fight and, is in a vet's office when I'm however many miles away I may be.
And that is why the choice is always with the owner.
That's great.
Always with
and
the owner.
so, I love that. Now, Does New PAWSibilities, you may have covered this early on, do you take in surrenders? If someone in town needs to surrender their pet for a reason, do you take in surrenders?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The yes part is we'll always have a conversation about it. If the pet is a biter, and that's why they're surrendering them, this is not an appropriate place.
Right, and I don't
So-
think any rescue really takes in a biter.
So-
with a bite history that's
Right.
especially been documented,
So-
because that's a liability
Right.
issue.
So that's part of it.
Yep.
Part of it, though, is, because we bring in so many dogs at once, we have to do the capacity for care. So we'll have people who say, I lost my lease, I can't find a place to live, my wife is pregnant, I have, whatever really great reasons why you need to get rid of this dog. But if we have just brought in 40 dogs, and we know that our capacity to care for one more just isn't there, we have to adhere to the legal standards, and they are there.
Yep.
And we have to always take care of the dogs that are in our care right now. So the yes part is we will always have a discussion, but depending upon the timing. So sometimes they'll say, well, when can you? So yes, we have taken in strays. We have taken in rehoming. I mean, not rehoming, but
Surrenders.
surrenders.
Owner
We've
surrenders.
taken in owner surrenders, but it just depends upon your timing.
Sure. Well, and that totally makes sense. I want to talk about some of the ways that you're getting exposure for the dogs. And one of the most recent things that I was involved with as a volunteer was you did a wonderful meet and greet event at Fleet Farm. And my God, thanks to the people at Fleet Farm, these folks were
Wow.
fantastic. They offered chairs for us to sit on. They brought out water. Because it was a hot
day.
It was bad. It was miserable. But everybody was having a great time, and the Fleet Farm people really took care of us.
They did, and it was the backstory on that, and the really amazing thing about that is they are service dog only.
In their store.
In their store. And so they contacted me about only 2 weeks before that event, and they said, we would like to do this. Would you want to do it? And I said, but you're not dog friendly in terms of going into the store, and I want to honor that. And they said, oh no, but our parking lot. They did a drive. The amount of donations they made in product was off the charts.
Yeah.
And as you say, they did. They had their own volunteers. They found out how many people I was bringing. They had chairs. They had water. They allowed us to walk the dogs in the store.
Yes. And that was nice because it, like we said, was a
It was
really
hot. It was
unbeastly.
It was
bad.
It was an unusually hot day for that time of the year.
Yes.
But they let us walk in, and we had great volunteers whose job was to walk the dogs, greet the people. We had 2 at a time. One picks up the poop, cleans up. One person does the chit-chat, and then people come right out. That day, normally, when you go to these meet and greets, there are going to be puppies. There are going to be small dogs. So we did have a kennel of puppies. And then we had 5 of those, 6 of those. We had 5 larger dogs, including one dog who was, how big was Hazel? Maybe 60 pounds? And so we had...
Was she the brindle-colored dog?
No, she was the... yes, brindle, yes.
Okay.
No. She was the more reddish color.
Hazel.
Yeah.
For some
Anyway,
reason,
we had 11
I saw so many dogs.
We had 11 dogs there, and it was unbelievable.
And tell about the success, because it wasn't just those dogs that got adopted.
And this is why
It was
it's
others.
so important when companies like Fleet Farm and others reach out and say, can we do this? Yes, we ultimately got all 11 dogs adopted. 2 or 3 of them, it took a few more extra days. But what happened was people heard about us and they went. There was one case where the little Chihuahua mix, little black one, Danielle, somebody was all set to adopt her. And they went in so that their mother could meet this dog. And we all knew she had a home. But they happened to say, maybe we should look at other dogs. And they did adopt, but it wasn't that dog. But then someone else came right in and got her. So the number of people who were exposed, who didn't even know that we existed, who had never even thought about a dog. It was so exciting to see.
Yeah.
So when we do these meet and greets, and we do them, we've done now 4 of them in Appleton at a pet store called The Depository. And that's exciting because they're right on College Avenue.
Okay.
And they have a storefront. And you know the song, How Much Is That Dog in the Window? Those dogs are right in the window. And everybody can go in and sit down and play with the dogs. And there's farmer's market. And
That is
and
fantastic.
It is. And well, now they have working with From Food. And every dog adopted through New Possibility gets a starter kit of From Food for free
Oh, that's
from
wonderful.
Depository and From. So it's got your adult or puppy food. It's got snacks. It's got coupons. How exciting is that?
That's a great deal.
I know. So the more that we are in the community, we do meet and greets with for Imprint for their about 3 hours, and people get to go on the clock and just stress release and go play with puppies, go play with dogs, which is really fun, both at the
Sure.
distribution center and also at their main facility. So the more that we can get people understanding that there is a tremendous need and an opportunity for them to help us by giving these dogs a platform.
I'm going to offer another possibility for you.
Yes.
The university here in town, as well as Lawrence University in Appleton, they bring dogs in during finals week so that the students can de-stress with the dogs.
I did not know that. Thank you for
Sure. Now you've
Wow.
got more, now you've got more work to
I
do,
don't know. I
right?
have more on my plate, right? Well, I do know our university is phenomenal on volunteerism. And so now that school is ramping up, we're able to go to the different sororities and the honor societies, and they come and they help us at our events. They walk the dogs, they clean the kennels. So you do have to be, and I have to stress this, we're working on changing it if possible, but you do have to be 18 years of age.
I was going to
And
ask
that's
that
because of
later
our
for
liability
volunteers.
insurance.
Sure.
So we're working on maybe lowering that age because there are a lot of high school students who also need that community service.
Sure.
And they love dogs, and they're capable, they can help us, they have common sense. But right now, you do need to be 18 to volunteer with us in any capacity.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the college is wonderful, and there are companies that actually
Sure.
pay their employees to volunteer because volunteering makes for a stronger community.
I've said for years that if every single person in this country would just volunteer at whatever, floats their boat, volunteer 1 hour a week or 2 hours a month, what a difference we would have made in this country
It really is. And
through
so
volunteering.
I've long been a volunteer. It's how I was raised. My mom and dad, I can remember saying, be the best you that you can be, and then help others be their best them. That's how 8 kids in a lower ghetto kind of neighborhood, I mean, it was, put it out there, but that's how we were raised, and all 8 graduated from college, and all 8 are making a difference. And
what a great-
volunteering was the linchpin of that. We always had to volunteer. And so I have such pride in what I do because I am a volunteer. Every activity that we do, I'm off the clock. I mean, I've already, spent my 20 hours. But it's exciting getting people an opportunity they hadn't thought about to volunteer.
Absolutely. So now I've given you 2 more.
Oh, I can't. Oh, I'm excited.
And since college is
Yes.
just beginning,
Exciting. We
you've
have
got,
time to.
You've got time to get that organized and in place for finals week.
And the really fun thing about New Possibilities and kind of what sets us aside is because there are so many dogs in this one area, we can bring in dogs to match our market. 65% of Oshkosh, as you know, is renter.
Yes.
That means there's some challenges. You may love that Mastiff, and by the way, we have 2 Mastiff puppies that just came in. But you're not going to have that Mastiff in an apartment. You're going to need that weight restriction. You're going to need that breed restriction. It's not us. It's your landlord. So it's exciting to be able to bring in a variety of dogs. So for finals week, we can actually say, do you guys want puppies? Do you want adult dogs? Tell us what you want.
Yeah.
And that's what we did over at Fleet Farm, because we brought that variety, because not everybody, myself included, wanted a puppy.
Yeah.
We bring in about 10% of our dogs are seniors.
And honestly, there's a lot of people who aren't interested in adopting a senior dog because they say, I just lost one. I don't want to go through that again in
Right.
just a few years. But God bless them, there are people out there who specifically, they know that, and they will specifically go out to seek the older dogs.
We have just amazing, and I love the story of my grandson. He was playing with dogs one day, and he had a little poodle named Spice, and Spice was about 10 years old. And he didn't do much. So Lucian was playing with the little puppies and playing with the little spry dogs, and then he just held Spice. And he said, do you think that Daddy will let me have Spice? I said, honestly, no. And I said, but why that dog? If you were going to get any of these dogs, why that one? And he said, these other dogs, everybody wants them. But Spice only has one job, and his job is to love me. That's it.
Out of the mouths of
babes. What? His job is to love me.
Yeah.
And he sat there cuddling, and when he took Spice, he was shivering, and the little dog was so nervous, and you could just see him calm down and just melt into this little boy's arms. And he said, everybody wants the other dogs.
Yeah.
But what about this? And so we encourage people to take a look at outside their little box of what they thought they wanted.
I want to talk about another event. There are a few different events that we need to talk about. So let's talk about, and I'm going to try and do these in the order that they're coming up, but I may falter a little bit on that. You have something coming up called Paws on the Patio.
We're going to do Caldwell Banker first, if you want.
Caldwell Banker.
Because that
okay.
comes first.
Okay. I knew I'd screw that up. So, okay, Caldwell Banker.
So Caldwell
on
Banker.
Amro Road.
On Amro Road,
by
right here in Oshkosh.
by the DMV office.
Didn't know that part of it, but yeah. So there.
Well, that's some place that a lot of people know out there.
So they are on Amro Road, and I, speaking of volunteerism, I joined the Rotary, and that's all about service. And so one of our Rotarians called me once she knew what I did, and she said, Caldwell Banker has a nationwide 2-day adoption event. Our goal is when we sell a home, obviously for some people a home isn't a home without a dog. And so we want to encourage this. Is there any way that you can bring some dogs? So we're going to be doing it on September 28th, which is a Saturday. We are not doing the Sunday event. It's just going to be a 1-day. And I think it's from 10 to 4. We're going to do triple teams of volunteers, triple team of dogs. So we're going to show the dogs back and forth and do an adoption event. So it's outdoors. They're going to have tents, which is what Fleet Farm did, which was great.
Yes.
They're going to have the tables, the chairs, kind of the same setup. So I was just so honored for them to say, would you do this?
Yeah.
Because that's a big name.
Well,
It's
it
a
is,
really
and the
big
fact
name.
that this is a nationwide event that they have over 2 days, and like you said, you're not doing the second day, but Saturday, September 28th is, the weather should be perfect, I would think, by that time of the year. And we won't be melting in the heat as we were the last time, because that was awful.
It was
just from early in the morning, and there was no let up.
And that was only a 4-hour event, but it
I
sure
know.
felt longer.
I know.
It sure felt longer.
Yeah, it really did.
I have the best picture of the puppies in a circle. They finally collapsed,
Yeah.
and they're all laying head to head in a circle.
There
So
were a lot of
adorable.
people, especially children, looking at those dogs.
Yeah, they all
So this event will be at Caldwell Banker on Old Amro Road from
10 to 4.
in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And if you want to volunteer and you are 18 years of age or older, contact Carmen at New PAWSibilities. Their phone number is 920 385-0809, and she will gladly get you set up to help us on that day.
Because I don't work there, I work out of my home, and because I'm the one who does those volunteers, your very best bet is to email me.
Okay.
And so I'm going to give you my direct email, but you can also email from the site.
Okay.
So if you go to newpawsibilities.com, hit on that contact button, there'll be a way for you to email, and that will get to me.
Okay, but let's get it.
But
what
if
is
you
it?
want to email me directly, it's Carmen, Carmen, newpaws@gmail.com.
Very simple.
So it's very simple. That goes right to me, and then I send you an email back, and then you'll get the group email for all the volunteers with all the different opportunities.
So if you're listening to us on the radio, again, it's Carmen newpaws@gmail.com. So there'll be two N's there in between Carmen and new. So Carmen newpaws@gmail.com. You've got a couple other events coming up also. Which one do you want to talk about?
So we're going to
first?
talk about one called Paws on the Patio.
There we go.
And some of your audience may have gone in June, which was even more beastly hot than in August.
I can imagine.
But it was a wild success. So the thing is, more and more people, more and more companies are realizing that people are attached to their dogs. People didn't get a dog to leave them at home so that they can go out and eat or they can go shop. I created a huge list of dog-friendly places in our adopting area, and one of them happens to be Ground Round. They have a beautiful patio right on the waterfront, and it is dog-friendly. The hotel, Best Western, is also dog-friendly.
Yes, it is.
And they wanted to get the word out. So the manager of that restaurant happened to have gotten her dog through us, as many years ago, as did several of her staff. So it was a natural for her to say, do you want to do something? So we brainstormed. We call it Paws in the Patio. We do raffle baskets. We bring puppies and have a kissing booth. And you have these unsuspecting lunch guests are sitting there, and all of a sudden, there's dogs. And of course, people who we have told about it come. There's no fee. I mean, if you want to sit at a table and eat and drink, that's fine. If you just want to come play with puppies, that's fine. If you want to bid, that's fine. They are the most generous host. They put together a huge basket, and they'll do it again with a hotel stay, a gift card. They had champagne, they had glasses, they had doggy treats, and they'll do something similar. But this one, because it's in October, and it's going to be October 6th, which is a Sunday, which is a unique day because Saturday is what you usually do. So it's a Sunday. It's going to be from 11 to 2.
Okay.
And once again, we'll have the puppy kissing booth. We'll have raffle items of our own. We'll have their basket. But it's going to be fun because it's a costume contest for the doggies. So
that's fantastic.
That's going to be really fun. And you can always find out. The best way now to find out about everything we do is Facebook.
Sure. And there's a wonderful thing here that you gave us, and there are two different piles of information. And if you live locally, and I always say that because we go out on YouTube, and so people can hear about us and watch us from Lord knows where, anywhere in the world, I guess. But I'm going to leave a bunch of these. I don't want to call them brochures, but they're informational cards. And I'm going to leave them here at Oshkosh Media. And so if you're interested, you can just stop by anytime that Oshkosh Media is open and grab one or both of these. But you've got another event coming up in October, and it's called Wagtoberfest.
It's called Wine and Wagtoberfest.
Oh, well, I was just looking at Wagtoberfest.
Yes, Wine and Wagtoberfest. So we did this in March with snow on the ground and not knowing would anybody go all the way to Omro. And boy, did they come. Because one thing that I noticed is that fundraising events rarely include the dog. So we wanted to make it dog friendly. So there is a winery there called Rushford Meadery and Winery.
Oh, I know where that is.
And I made that connection through the Chamber of Commerce. And she said, we are dog friendly. Not in the tasting room, but we have another room and we have outdoors and hallways. So we did our first wine and wags. And they were like, yeah, let's do 100 people. So 220 people later and 50 dogs. And it was sort of a madhouse. And it was a roaring success. And people said, can we do it again? So now we're doing it October the 12th. So I'm going to be super tired because 6 days in between does not a happy camper make.
That's right.
But we have a giant tent that we're erecting and, the raffles. But this will have wine tasting that'll be served. They do have a room where you can buy other wines. You can buy beer. We have a food truck coming. And you can bring your dogs. And
That's
we, of
fantastic.
course, will have puppies. Yes.
That is wonderful. So again, that's on Saturday, October 12th from 1 to 4 p.m. Tell us again where it is.
So it's going to be at Rushford Meadery and Winery, and that is in Omro.
Just stone's throw from Oshkosh.
Yes. And people will come that far.
So we are running out of time, and I want to hit on just a few things here very quickly. We did say that the dogs are spayed or neutered by the time they leave. Are they microchipped?
They are microchipped, and we do it right when the adoption takes place.
Okay,
so
perfect.
And you don't have to even call. Everything's already done for you.
Okay.
They also have all their up-to-date vaccinations. They are wormed. I mean,
they're fully vetted before they go home. That, however, does not eliminate your requirement, if you're going to be a truly wonderful pet owner, to take the dog to your own vet and stay current with all the stuff that needs to be done on an annual basis.
And license your dog in the city
yes,
where you live.
It does not cost that much.
$5. There we go.
Well, if they're spayed or neutered, and these would be.
Yes.
But if by chance you don't have a dog that's spayed or neutered, we encourage you to do so. But then the fee is a little bit more, but it's still very affordable. You do background checks before anyone gets to adopt a dog, correct?
We do.
Okay.
And one thing that our founder really wanted is to make adoptions, accessible. Mm-hmm. So with the way it is right now, you can do a check like that. I mean, it's no longer calling up. Yeah. So there really isn't a reason that somebody has to wait forever. And the dogs are available. You can do same-day adoptions.
But not at these events.
So
we need to stress that.
At the events, we tell people we are not legally able to dispense a dog from a location other than New PAWSibilities. Nor does it make sense, because if you have kids, if you have a dog, if you want to spend private time in a room, we do have 4 rooms, and we just painted them turquoise rooms and purple rooms, and it's bright and happy, and we're refurbishing and making it just it's exciting. So if you found a dog at an adoption event and that's your dog, the process is it's not your dog. We do not hold dogs. We do not take multiple deposits. When you put a non-refundable deposit on, contrary to what some people think, non-refundable means you don't get your money back. Why do we do that? That's a lost opportunity for a dog.
Sure.
The minute that card is swiped, we have no control. That dog goes off the site. Mm-hmm. If you decide 3 days later, I don't want that dog, who could have seen that dog? So the application process is super easy. You click on a dog's picture. It says apply. It is for any dog that we have. If you don't find a dog right then and there, it's on hold, and then it's already done. Then you physically come into New PAWSibility and go through the adoption process.
Sure.
We want you to talk with the adoption counselor, make sure it's a good fit.
All right. So one of the ways, besides getting grant money, one of the ways that you folks at New PAWSibilities raise money to help with your operational expenses is you have the doggy daycare, you have boarding, you have a retail store, and there's a grooming facility. And so we're down to about 3 minutes here. So just kind of real quickly touch on those things.
Well, we are open 7 days a week. So the daycare is 7 days a week whenever we're open. The boarding is obviously on a 24-hour basis. The grooming's by appointment, and she is a part-time groomer. We are currently kicking around the idea of adding someone, so we extend those hours. And the retail shop is in transition. We've sold a lot, but it costs money to get stuff. And if it sits on the shelf, maybe that's money and it doesn't move. Maybe that's money that should go for dogs instead. So, I wouldn't make a big deal about the retail at this point. But all those things are not only because of bringing in the revenue, but it's a way to make sure that our adopters and other people have resources in this community that are affordable and safe.
Sure. So I think we have touched on so many different things. We've given people a lot of stuff to talk about. So real quickly, we have the event coming up at Coldwell Banker on September 28th. We have Paws on the Patio coming up on October 6th. And we have the Wine and Wagtoberfest coming up the following week at on Saturday, October 12th. So
and we have the Senior Fair.
Okay.
October the 1st over at the convention center. They asked us to come and do meet and greets there. So that's exciting.
Excellent.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. We could talk for 10 hours.
We probably could.
But I thank you for being so gracious, being such a comfortable interviewer.
Oh, well, thank you.
And letting everybody just know about New Possibilities.
Absolutely. Thank you. And, I will just say this before we wrap up about New Possibilities. You can find people who complain about any business, or whether it's for-profit, non-profit. There's always someone who has a beef with some place or with somebody in the business world. I've heard complaints about New Possibilities. I've heard complaints about the Oshkosh Area Humane Society. Just because you may have had a bad experience with some place or someone doesn't mean that that is everyone's experience. And I would have to say that the better majority of the people who deal with New Paws, they're having good experiences, and that includes some of my own family members. So, I would just encourage folks to, if you hear something negative about any place or any business person, take it with a grain of salt and investigate it for yourself. And only that way are you going to know the real truth about an organization or a business person. So remember that love is just a wag away. And before we wrap up here, I want to say congratulations to our floor director. He is a new father, and I had to turn over my sheet here because this name is one of the longest names I have ever heard in my life. But Ed Castern has become a proud papa. The baby was born on August 19th, 2019 at 10:49 p.m. And she has the most lovely name. She is Ismay Starlet Eleanor Chapin Castern. And she is a beauty, and she is going to be a heartthrob when she starts getting older. But for now, she's Daddy's little girl. So congratulations to both Ed and the mama, Rachel. We cannot forget about her. And finally, if you're looking for something fun to do, we talked a lot about volunteering. We're always looking for volunteers here at On Oshkosh so that our regular volunteers don't have to be here every single show that we do. So if you'd like to volunteer, please contact me at ionoshkosh@gmail.com. I'll give you all the information. You don't need to have any experience. We'll provide training for you. It's a lot of fun, it's educational, and I don't think that you will regret stepping forward to give a few hours a month. With that, I will say thank you again to Carmen.
Thank you.
I thank my crew. I always thank you. We will see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh. you.